The second speaker is Georg GARTNER, another person who doesn't need to be presented. He's the president of the International Cartographic Association, and I asked him, because we are colleagues, he's a professor also at the University of Vienna, we are colleagues but also friends. Since many years, can we say that? It means that we are a bit old, but we can say that. We have a lot of experience, so that's the good point of being not so young. And I asked him to let us know what are the main points of interest in cartography, because cartography sometimes seems something old, but related to the old maps. In the past there were so beautiful paper maps, but now cartographers can create something new that is beautiful all the same. So the point is, what is the role of FOSS4G in the new cartography?
Mille grazie. First of all, I would like to say thanks to Maria and her team to organize this wonderful conference and to bring everything here, us and the heat, I would say. You might have seen in all the announcement materials that there are some logos there. And one of those logos says ICA. And maybe some of you don't know about that organization. That organization is called the International Cartographic Association. And it happens to be that I'm currently president of that ICA. And I would like to elaborate a little bit about why we are taking a strong notice on FOSS4G, about the community, the products, the ideas, the concepts. Not only taking strong notice, but also actively contribute to it. And how we are involved in that. That is one of the main points I would like to address. But before I do that, I would like to address another point, which I think is, why are we doing that? Why are we all doing that? Why are we using software? Why are we producing geodata? What for? That's my question. My question is, what is our motivation behind that? And where will that lead us to? And my argument is, my message I would like to share with you is that it's all about, at the end of the day, about a human user. It's about accessibility, availability, openness. It's all about a human user at the end of the day, from my perspective. And I think that is the link between cartography and FOSS4G, basically. Because we all have in mind, from my perspective, that we are not producing data for itself. We are not producing software for itself, an application for itself, a project just because we can do it. I'm able to do it, so I do it. What for? There's a human user maybe at the end of the day, which we should have in mind, or have in mind, basically, is what drives cartography and should drive basically us. That is my message, more or less, what I would like to share with you. Some words about my background. I'm a professor on cartography at the Vienna University of Technology. We're basically using free and open source software. We are doing projects like the base map. You can have a look on that. That's something like a free base map for Austrian data, which is produced on, let's say, the newest technology which are available on that. We are very much interested in location-based services. We're doing a lot of projects in that area. And we're doing something like you can do in a mapping party this afternoon. We call that emotional mapping. So doing something where you can express yourself about your subjective relation to space. So do you like a place or don't like a place is a valuable information about, for instance, guiding instruction, navigation services, other services which are related to geo. So those are elements which we are interested in and which we are discussing in our group. And let me say about where I see things. Where are we? Where are we? All of us in that kind of community, this geo. Let's call ourselves the geo community, wherever we come from in our background. I think where we are is and where we head to is that we're all contributing somehow that spatial information becomes available anytime, anywhere, ubiquitously. And I mean, really, it's true already. It's not a vision anymore, correct? We are there. I think what we can have as a vision as well, that we are all contributing somehow, is that geo information or spatial information is not only available, but it is tailored. It is tailored to a particular context and a particular need. What I mean by that is, if I'm providing information, let's say I have to give you a guiding instruction from how to get from here to the Ferrovia Stazione, the railway station, okay? And you are with your small child. And I'm providing an information which is similar to all of you, but some of you have a small child with them. Maybe a different route would be much better for you. I call it the user context, the user need, which we tailor. Usually, if I'm communicating with a human, I'm adapting my way on communicating information, selecting information, providing information to the person I'm talking to. Okay? Well, we need to do the same thing, basically, so that the vision is really clearly there, that we are not simply giving something away, but we understand what is needed, what is relevant, how do we provide that information. This is something where we all had to, or contributing to, by developing applications, concepts, software, and so on. And also part of that vision is that the location, the spatial element, is a key selector for which and how information is provided. And that makes our whole geo-domain so powerful currently. And that's why it's always called that we are contributing to a big, big trend. The geo element is a big, big trend because of this, basically. Because there's so much data available, even more and more data available, who can help to select and provide the most appropriate information and provide it in a tailored way, let's say. So really, the vision where we all head to and contribute, if we are aware of that or not, is that basically we are working towards services which will be widespread, of daily use, and without those services, people will eventually feel kind of spatially blind in the future. That's where we're all contributing to, from my perspective, all of us, which are doing something with geo. That's what we do, basically. If I'm doing some coding for a new software, which is dealing with spatial data, or I'm doing an application, or I'm whatever, that is something where we're heading towards too. And on a way to head towards this vision, the technology plays a key role. Technology is in terms of sensors, in terms of hardware, in terms of data providing, in terms of software, which is able to model things, which in terms to select things, in terms to analyze things. Those type of technologies are basically pushing us forward. And I'm arguing that they're getting smaller and smaller. When you think about sensors, you can put that on a bed. You can embed it everywhere. I mean, all of us have sensors in their pocket basically permanently. They're getting small and embedded in our daily life permanently. So it's not a vision anymore. It's daily life, it's daily routines that basically all of us are providing geodata. And so all of us in the geo domain, by offering new solutions, new developments and so on, are somehow contributing to do something with it, basically. And when you think about cars as well, the Internet of Things, those type of things are known to all of us. And I think in terms of heading toward the vision, we are not only see that we are triggered and pushed by technology developments, but we're also triggered and pushed by data. And when I'm thinking as a cartographer about my own past, maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was a big struggle to find data. That was a big struggle. It was a big effort usually for the geo-discipline experts to get hold of data. And I would argue that has really changed. It's not a question anymore. It's not really a question. It's the opposite. It really has got so big that the question is not how we, if there is data, the question is rather, how do we find the relevant data? How do we find the relevant data is the big question. And my argument here is we are all contributing to this somehow in developing technologies, hardware, software, and we are producing data more and more and more and more. And because we have that, we do something with it. Okay? That's what we do. As an engineer on a technical university, I do something with it. And we forget about what for sometimes. What for? If a decision maker, if the mayor of Como, if my neighbor, if a tourist gets that, what will he do with it? A query of database. What will he do with it? I argue it needs communication, tools of communication which are appropriate for human users. If there is no human involved, doesn't matter. We deal with data, that's okay. If there is a human involved at the end of the pipeline, we need something which communicates that information appropriately, tailored to user context and needs, as I said before. And I think that puts cartography in a key role. Maps are key in that respect. They are key. We just, sometimes in the geodomains and discipline, we think, well, at the end of the day, I push a button and something will be visualized. Some graphic will be put on top of it. Some color will be put on top of it. Come on. Would you read a newspaper where somebody has pressed the button and, okay, all the news which comes out of the press agencies, we just put it somehow? No, you want to read something which is inspiring you, which gives you awareness of what is ongoing in the world, and so on and so on. So I argue that the map is key in that respect. In that context where we are, with all those explosion of technologies and data which we are just having, I think cartography and maps are key. Accessibility, availability is key. So in terms of this data, I think what we need to do in that respect is that we have to overcome, there are challenges which we are facing here, to overcome obstacles between the data acquisition and data consummation. So we are producing data, okay, that's fine, here we are, but there at the end of the day, there's the mayor of Como, and he needs a particular part of that. There's a gap in between sometimes, and we have to overcome that. It's a big challenge I see for our community, let's say. I think we have to find ways to cooperate better between those still parallel worlds of authoritative, commercial, and open data providers. We have to work together. We have to find ways to do that better, let's say. That's a challenge as well. And I think we are still struggling in developing technical, legal, economical standards in that respect, dealing with data. So what I'm arguing is that we have to focus also on the use. And in terms of use, what I have in mind is that we're not producing something, developing something because we can do it, because we have data, because we have technology, because we have the skills and competences to program something, argue what for. And in arguing what for, we need to understand the human user needs. And a human user need would mean that we understand his context, and we are aware of his context, that we model the user and his use, that we have adaptive algorithms, and how can I adapt the piece of information I would like to provide to you and then to another person which is in a different context, which has a small child with him. How can I do that on the fly, on request? And I argue that really cartography and maps are in a key position here. I was always fascinated by the idea of spatial data infrastructures and Inspire as the flagship of that. And I always thought, why are they not looking into the viewing services better? Why are they producing something all about metadata, all about data standards, all about legal responsibility, all about technical, let's say, interfaces? Here we are. What do I do with it? Where are the viewing services? Where is the cartography? Where are the maps? And I'm happy to see that. I'm happy, really happy to see that it has been taken on board, and it's put a lot of focus on that basically here. And it's something where we all can benefit, I think, very much from this. So really cartography is the language from my perspective, where we put it here. And in terms of heading towards this vision, I think there are consequences which we have to see, that there is a growing recognition amongst government and private sector that the location is key, and that puts us in a strong position, basically. And I really would argue that FOSS4G is, and free and open source software has something to do with this main idea. This main idea that we make something available, accessible, having no obstacles, enables use, puts the human into the game, let's say. And I really think that from the data perspective, I like this open idea very much, this crowdsourcing idea, this VGI idea. And I also like this idea that cartography plays a key role here. When I'm looking into that, what others are saying about that, like the United Nations, you know that the United Nations have this GGIM initiative, and what they say about the big trends, they would say, we need to promote awareness. We need to come from a data-centric provider focus to something what we call a knowledge-enabled user focus. In other words, we shouldn't develop something, just produce data, just produce software, hardware, without having in mind what for. The same sentence here, basically, is what the UNGGM is saying. And they say, well, we need to embrace the information technologies. And open source is mentioned as the first term. That is clearly a focus of UNGGM as well, in that respect, which I think is nice to see. There's a problem here. Sorry about that. Sorry. Where are we? And I'm also thinking that in terms of the role of free and open source software, from my perspective is, I see three dimensions which come along with this. I see the societal dimension, that I call it this geo for all, to have no obstacles in accessibility and availability to data, to software, to applications, that it allows everybody to contribute. That's the overall idea of this, what we call Geo for All initiative. I think most of you know about that idea of Geo for All, which has developed out of a joint action of OSGeo and ICA, that we allowed labs all over the world to have that label, ICA OSGeo Lab. And from out of that, we developed this Geo for All initiative. It exploded into something. And it really, the idea of that is make it without obstacles for everybody possible to benefit and to take part, let's say. But I also think there's an industrial dimension coming along with free and open source software, which is that the current architectures demand basically for free and open source software. That because it's component based, let's say, that type of architecture, and that allows that rapid adaptation, expansion, those type of things, which are usually in proprietary all-in systems hard to develop. So there's really an industrial dimension coming along with this, as well as I would call a security dimension, that only maybe with free open source software, you really know exactly how software works and where are the drawbacks, where are the shortcomings, and how can you address those. That's a security issue which comes along with that as well. So I really argue that FOSS4G is a key interest for cartographers, for modern cartographers. Because what we have in mind as cartographers is we would like to communicate spatial information appropriately to a human user. And I think to have a free and open source community is linking perfectly into this goal, into this aim. And that's why ICA is taking such a strong notice. And I would like to mention some words about the ICA. We have a lot of commissions. And there's one commission highlighted in red here, and that is the Commission on Open Source Geospatial Technologies, which has been founded 4 years ago. It is chaired by Sukhit Anand, which is well known in this community, and it is a big success story from my perspective. That commission is a big success story. It has developed this ICA OSGeo labs based on the Memorandum of Understanding with OSGeo. It has developed this Geo for All initiative. It has a big momentum. And it's a big driver basically in that community. And we are very happy about that, how it worked. As you can see, we have a lot of commissions. And they're all open. They're all inclusive. They're all open and inclusive to everybody who want to eventually take part of, take notice and part in a big international community, let's say, talking about that. If you're producing maps, ICA is a platform for showcase that to the world and win an award and use that as a promotional idea for yourself, if you want. If you think geo is important, but not everybody knows about it, and maybe you talk to your neighbor what you're doing and he has no idea about what you're developing a project about something and he has no idea about it, make his child produce a map, contribute to the children map competition, and immediately you will get this idea of why geospatial components and maps are important much more easily into your friends and neighbors' brains, let's say. What ICA is doing as well is a lot of seminars, outreach, capacity building programs. I personally have run a lot of workshops in places like Botswana or Tonga or Cuba or wherever, and I'm always using free and open source software only. and we are spreading the words basically in that respect. Not all of our commercial members are happy about that, but it seems like that's the best way to do it from my perspective. I mentioned about the Geo for All initiative, which we're very proud of, and we would like to give that a further drive, and I would like to encourage all of you to take part in that initiative. And if you're running a lab, if you're in a university, and you want to have that label ICA, OSGeo, ISPRS lab, then feel free to join that community and that momentum. We are happy about that. I would like to mention one particular element here, which is the ICA have been endorsed by the United Nations to run an international map year. Why is the United Nations doing that? The United Nations think geo is key for the sustainability of the Earth. It sounds strange, it sounds very pathetic, but it's true. If we want to be aware of how our planet is developing, we need to understand that it's all about spatial components, relations, and so on. And in that respect, the map is key because they allow us to explore it and to analyze it better, to be aware of problems, challenges, relations, and so on. And that's why they say it's so important that we encourage all member states of the United Nations to highlight that function, to make it, let's say, in the focus of many. And so the International Map Year, it will be launched actually in 6 weeks from now in Brazil, and everybody is welcome. Everybody is welcome to contribute in that. There's a central website. Whatever you do related to maps, related to geo, share it if you want to share it. And demonstrate the power, the potential of what we are doing in our community, basically. So we really would like to expose the importance of maps and geographic information in our society. And we do that by making it visible to citizens, maybe having map days being allowed for children, for the general public, for schools, for professional, for the governments, for everybody, and demonstrate what the power, the potential, and the importance of what we are doing, we as a community in the geo domains is about. It's very important that we do that, because sometimes governments, prime ministers, ministers say, well, it's fine. I know from my university it's fine what you're doing, but the funding will be limited about, those agencies dealing with it, about encouraging funds or projects in that respect. If it's so key, if it's so important for all of us, then we need to have that role, that importance being visible as well. And that is an instrument which can help in that respect. So I'm encouraging all of you to contribute in here. I also would like to mention that through ICA and through that commission and through that joint work we are doing with the FOSS4G community, there's a role into that meta international organizations like the United Nations or something like ICSU. ICSU is the International Council of Scientific Unions. It's basically meant it's a meta organization of international science. So there's a direct link in between, basically, between what we are doing, we in this room, and the international ongoing big questions, let's say. And that's the role of an organization like this. So I'm encouraging you to take benefit of that and feel free and open and welcome in that. We are also giving away scholarships. If you're working on research and you need support, check out what we are offering here. We give away money, and we do so on Friday at this conference as well for the NASA Worldwide competition. I have 500 euros in my pocket, and it will be given on Friday. So we give money away. Come on, check out. And finally, I would like to mention that if you want to find out more about that, there's a big conference in Rio de Janeiro in 6 weeks from now in Brazil, if you want to join us. And in November this year in Vienna, the European version of that. If you want to get connected to that community. They are very much like the community which is here. We are very much the same type of community. And with this, mille grazie. Thank you.